They forgot about me until the hospital called with shocking news. The first time my husband forgot about me, he forgot our anniversary. The second time, he forgot to pick me up from the airport. But the third time, he forgot to tell the woman he was cheating with that I was still alive. I found that out because a hospital called me at 2:17 in the morning. The nurse said, "Ma'am, we found your name in his emergency contacts." Then she paused. "And there's something else you need to know." What she told me that night completely changed the way I saw my marriage. My name is Claire. I was 34 years old, and for almost 9 years, I believed I had a good marriage. My husband, Daniel, and I lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Charlotte, North Carolina. Nothing about our life looked dramatic from the outside. We had a small house, 2 cars, a dog named Charlie, and a refrigerator covered with magnets from places we'd visited together. At least that's what I thought. Daniel worked in sales for a medical equipment company. He traveled a lot, but I never complained. I knew his job required it. And whenever he came home, he always had an explanation for why he was late. A delayed flight, a client dinner, traffic, a last-minute meeting. I believed every word. Because when you love someone, you don't investigate every sentence they say. You trust them until the little things start adding up. About 6 months before everything fell apart, Daniel started changing. He became protective of his phone. He used to leave it on the kitchen counter while taking a shower. Now it never left his hand. Even when he went downstairs to get a glass of water at midnight, his phone went with him. One night I joked, "Are you expecting the president to call?" He smiled. "Just work stuff." I laughed. But he didn't. That was the first moment I realized something was different. Then came the business trips. 2 nights became 3. 3 became 5. And suddenly, he had a reason to be away almost every other weekend. Still, I didn't accuse him of anything. I wasn't that wife. I didn't want to become someone who searched through pockets and checked hotel receipts. So instead, I tried harder. I cooked his favorite meals. I planned weekend trips. I asked about his day. I even bought him a new watch for our anniversary. He thanked me. Then he immediately asked if I still had the receipt. I remember staring at him. "Why?" He shrugged. "I might exchange it." That night he slept facing away from me. And I stayed awake until almost 4 in the morning. Then one Friday afternoon, Daniel told me he had another business trip. "Atlanta," he said. "Until Monday." "Probably." He kissed my forehead and left. But something felt wrong. I couldn't explain it. So I decided to surprise him. Not because I suspected cheating. At least that's what I told myself. I simply wanted to see him. I booked a flight to Atlanta the next morning. I arrived at his hotel around noon. And that's when I learned something strange. Daniel wasn't there. The receptionist checked the computer. "Mr. Miller checked out this morning." I stood there confused. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "He checked out at 9:40. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A woman walked out of the elevator. She was holding a small black suitcase. And behind her was Daniel. His arm was around her waist. He was laughing. Not the polite laugh he gave me anymore. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't heard in months. I froze. They didn't see me. I watched them walk toward the parking lot together. And in that moment, I didn't need an explanation. I already knew. I went home alone. Daniel didn't know I'd seen them. And strangely, I didn't confront him. I waited. That evening, he called. "Hey babe, just got back to the hotel." I looked at the clock. It was 7:18 p.m. "You're still in Atlanta?" "Yeah." I closed my eyes. "Okay." He kept talking. Telling me about meetings. Telling me how exhausting his day had been. And I listened. Then I asked one question. "Daniel." "Yes." "Do you still love me?" There was a long silence. Then he said, "Of course I do." I knew he was lying. But I didn't tell him what I'd seen. Instead, I said goodnight. That was the last night I considered him my husband. Over the next 2 weeks, I quietly collected everything. Hotel receipts, bank statements, credit card charges, messages, photos, and eventually I learned the woman's name. Emily. She worked for another company that Daniel did business with. They had apparently been seeing each other for almost a year. Almost a year. While I was celebrating our anniversary. While I was waiting for him at airports. While I was texting him goodnight. He had been building another relationship behind my back. But then something happened that I never expected. Emily wasn't the only woman. There was another one. And that discovery changed everything. One night I found an email accidentally forwarded to our shared account. It was from a lawyer. The subject line said, "Regarding Daniel Miller, financial documents." I opened it. Daniel had been moving money. Not just hiding an affair. He had been transferring money from our joint savings into another account. Nearly $48,000. I stared at the screen. Then I understood. He wasn't planning to leave me someday. He was preparing to leave me with nothing. I finally confronted him. He walked into the kitchen and saw the documents on the table. His face changed instantly. "What is this?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Who is Emily?" Silence. "Where did our money go?" More silence. Finally he sat down. And said the words I'll never forget. "I was going to tell you." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes something hurts so much that your body doesn't know what else to do. "You were going to tell me." He looked at the floor. "I made mistakes." "No, Daniel." I pointed toward the documents. "You made decisions." He looked up. And for the first time, he seemed scared, /. But the biggest shock came 2 days later. I received a phone call. It was from a hospital. The nurse asked, "Are you Claire Miller?" "Yes." "Do you know a Daniel Miller?" My heart stopped. "Yes, he's my husband." The nurse hesitated. "He was brought in after a serious car accident." I couldn't breathe. "What hospital?" She gave me the address. I grabbed my keys and drove there. When I arrived, Daniel was unconscious. The doctors told me he had suffered multiple injuries. But he was alive. I sat beside his bed for hours. And then the nurse returned. She sat beside me. "There's something unusual." "What?" When he arrived, there was another woman with him. I looked up. "Emily." The nurse nodded. My stomach dropped. She gave us his emergency information. Then she said something even stranger. She told us she was his wife. I felt like the entire room disappeared. The woman my husband had been cheating with had walked into a hospital and claimed to be his wife. But that wasn't even the shocking part. The nurse continued. "That's why we called you. We found your name in his insurance records." I stared at Daniel through the glass. The man I had loved for 9 years. The man who told 2 women 2 different stories. And suddenly, I realized something. Emily didn't know about me. And I didn't know about Emily. Daniel had built 2 separate lives. And both women believed they were the real wife. Daniel woke up the next morning. The first person he saw was me. He looked terrified. "Claire." I stood beside his bed. "Don't." He started crying. "I can explain." "I know." He stared at me. "You do." I nodded. Emily told me everything. His face went pale. That was a lie. Emily hadn't told me anything. I just wanted to see how much he would confess. And he confessed almost everything. The second apartment. The money. The other woman. The plans to divorce me. All of it. Then he whispered, "I never wanted to hurt you." I looked at him. "You didn't accidentally hurt me, Daniel. You planned it." He had no answer. 3 months later, our divorce was finalized. Daniel lost access to the money he'd been hiding because the financial records exposed everything. Emily left him. Apparently, she discovered he had lied to her too. And I sold the house. Not because I couldn't live there. Because I didn't want my happiest memories trapped inside walls that had witnessed his lies. I moved to a smaller place near the coast. I kept Charlie. I bought a used car. And for the first time in years, I started making decisions without wondering how someone else would react. A year later, I received one final message from Daniel. It said, "I still think about you every day. I wish I could go back." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because sometimes closure isn't an apology. Sometimes closure is realizing you don't need one. Daniel didn't forget about me because he was busy. He didn't forget about me because life got complicated. He forgot about me because he thought I would always be there while he built a secret life somewhere else. But the hospital call taught me something I'll never forget. People can lie about who they love. They can lie about where they've been. They can even lie about who they are. But eventually, the truth walks into the room. And when it does, you'd better be ready to answer the phone.